does a client need to actually have an entity set up in Europe to start doing business there?
That's a very good question. It's certainly one we get a lot as well. And the short answer is no. And I think that's good news. Let me expand on that a little bit. We always draw a distinction between doing business in a country and doing business with a country. The latter is when you're selling remotely from the US into Europe or the UK, and there you don't need an entity. So that's, I think, on that level, at a headline level, straightforward. Then doing business in a country, actually having a physical presence in that country, do you need an entity? Again, the answer is no. You may, but it depends on what you're doing. If you're going to employ people, this is often where people start thinking about this. Number of different solutions. You can employ people from the US directly, have them employed by the US entity under a local law compliant employment agreement. You might set up one hub in Europe, say in London or in Amsterdam, and employ people across Europe through that. Or you might use an alternative structure such as a PEO, an employer of record, to house those employees for you. All of those are options that are available. There are some tax considerations that Simon will come on to as to how you structure that. But what we often get is this myth that everywhere I have an employee, I need an entity. You don't. There are lots of options out there, and you need to work through them, but don't think you're going to have, if I've got employees in 8 countries, I need 8 companies I've then got to administer. You don't.
I think the key thing really is looking at what the roles and responsibilities of the individual will be. So if you look at the two types of situations we see, there are companies that are looking to grow and expand, so they're going to put business development people on the ground. In those scenarios, you could potentially be creating a permanent establishment or taxable presence because they are generating revenue on behalf of the parent company. So in that situation, to actually hire directly, set up a subsidiary, a cost plus type model where it's an arm's length arrangement where the UK or the international subsidiary acts as a service organization back to the parent company. That's really very popular. It gives companies the ability to test the market as well as meet the various corporate obligations they have. The other piece we see as well is if it's just purely talent, so ancillary in nature, like they're hiring a software developer, a data scientist, but they have no plans whatsoever to any commercial activity on the ground. And in those cases, maybe just setting up payroll as a non-domiciled employer is a very practical way forward. And that's becoming more and more popular because in that respect, the employee is an employee in the truest sense. They're part of the organization, they're on an employment contract, they're hired by you. So they feel really quite engaged, if you want them to be, and part of the business and the company culture, rather than working through some sort of third-party outsourcing relationship or being a contractor. So there's more sense of togetherness, which is we're seeing particularly US companies understand more and embrace.